Good morning, everyone, or good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another live video. I will put together a schedule so that you can know where and when I'm going to be going live. At the moment, I'm just sort of trying to find my groove, and so whenever I have a moment, I just jump online and try to answer as many questions as possible, so that you have something to work with, and then we're going to work out a schedule. So I hope that this can work for everybody. Let's see. Okay, so I thought today we will tackle the whole subject, or an aspect of it, because it's sort of, you know, as anything, it's never done. There's always more. But we're going to talk about detoxification and how it links in with disordered eating, and weight loss versus weight gain versus, you know, fear of losing too much weight, because that's also a concern. So let me maybe start there, because everything else is kind of more going into the emotions. But strictly speaking, when we detox, it's important to know whether we detox or fast, we only ever lose the weight that is actually waste. And obviously a lot of people that are very skinny or already underweight, or, you know, near underweight, they will ask, "Ooh, I'm already so skinny. What, you know, what waste do I have to lose?" But the thing is, a lot of times when people are skinny and struggle to put on weight, you know, a lot of us think, oh, well, that's a great thing. In fact, I used to envy those people. And, you know, we think, oh, they just have a fast metabolism. And that's just that, you know, and maybe even we think they are healthy. And so we want to get to that stage. But here's the thing, a lot of people that struggle to gain weight and that are, you know, that have these like lean, muscular, often even muscular and defined bodies, they are actually highly acidic. And, you know, that's what I'm learning from observing others that come through my doors. I'm trying to see what's happening to my battery. So yeah, it's interesting to observe that, because a lot of times I get these people come in, especially women, and they look amazing and they're so lean and often, you know, have that natural muscle tone, and they don't even do a lot of working out. And I've come to realize that actually that oftentimes has to do with high acidity in the body. And this acidity in the body, obviously on one hand, makes for a fast metabolism, because it just burns up everything that they take in. And it obviously keeps this body looking super lean, but actually it's not lean, it's simply acidic. Well, it is lean, but it's lean through being acidic. Does that make sense? And so when they will go on a detoxification program, or when they will go through fasting, then oftentimes, yes, they will go down to skin and bones. Not always, because I recently worked with somebody who, you know, went through the master fast. First we prepared, then master fast, then integration. And, you know, they didn't even lose that much. They lost, but it wasn't even that drastic. So it depends, where are you at? But he was already, had been eating a very healthy diet for many, many years, but he needed to still remove the obstruction that was preventing from the healthy diet to actually be absorbed in his body. And so that's kind of, you know, that's really what this whole detoxification process is about. It's about removing the obstruction. And no matter whether you're skinny or you're overweight, if you're not able to lose weight or you're not able to gain weight, it's because there is layers of obstruction. And oftentimes there are even more layers of obstruction or deeper layers of acidity to be removed with people that that are very skinny and that struggle to gain the weight. Obviously, then there are always also the emotional factors. So with people that struggle to put on weight, a lot of times it's that they simply do not let anything in, and sometimes it's because their heart is so closed and everything is just so armored in their body that there is this rejection, which is actually just the counterpart of the counterpart of then the people who gain weight easily, like I did. And I still have that inclination. I think that in some ways, I don't know, will it be a lifelong thing? Maybe. Only that with this way of eating and living, I don't have to worry about it anymore. But ultimately, that's where like we differ in personality types. Some of us, we then put on layers of protection, and others put on layers of protection by simply not allowing anything in. So some of us absorb everything, and that gets absorbed in the lymphatic system, and it gets put on as extra padding, and which is really just, lymphatic waste. And then others, they express their sensitivity and their armoring in terms of just not letting anything in and just getting quickly rid of everything, but it gets rid of everything, the good and the bad. And so when we understand that there's the emotions, and that on the physical side, even when you're too skinny, there's simply layers of obstruction that prevent you from absorbing the good stuff. And that's why you're not putting on the weight, or why you're not able to be at a stable and healthy weight. And so don't fear going through a detoxification process, and just allow your body to do its thing. And yes, of course, it can be scary and uncomfortable to lose your curves if you're into them, or to go down to a very low weight because, of what people have to say, because of your own, how that feels. It feels very fragile. When I did my first fast, I went down to, I think it was sort of like 43 kilos, whereas my normal healthy weight is anywhere between like 48 and 51, something like that. And so when I went down to 43 kilos and I was feeling really, really weak, it was not a nice feeling. So I can imagine, that, and some people go down even further. I had one woman go down to 39 kilos and she was taller than I am, and so forth. And so, yes, it can happen that you go down to skin and bones, but that's part of the process of stripping down, and your body will never let go of anything that it needs. So it will never do organ damage or anything like that. And it's not like being anorexic. When you go through a process of fasting for healing purposes, you will actually not go down to a level of anorexia, which is very interesting. The body, in fact, stops, like the woman that went down to 39 kilos. Eventually, that's where the weight loss stopped, and she then started picking up weight again. Even while she was fasting, she put on 1 or 2 kilos slowly, and that was a sign that the body was actually now ready to really rebuild. So the rebuilding process will happen naturally when the body is ready, when the body has rid itself of obstruction. And at the same time, it's a process of stripping the body down, then a phase of rebuilding, stripping the body down, a phase of rebuilding. That's kind of what I've been doing for the last 4.5 years. I strip down, I rebuild, strip down and rebuild. And that's why I go down to a lower weight, and then I pick up a little bit of weight. And also the process of learning, these certain foods make me put on lymphatic waste, and so they don't really work for me. And then other foods, that don't affect me, and that is a learning process. And to sort of be very accepting of that process. And I found for myself, flowing into disordered eating, is that as I've learned through this process how deeply my body is healing, and as I've learned what happens in my emotional field as I really start feeding my body with love and honoring foods, and activities that truly nourish me, and as I go out and live my purpose and give that which I've always desired to give, I get fed on such a deep level that, funny enough, I truly, and it took me a while, but I truly no longer have any kind of objection or judgment around how my body is supposed to look, how I want it to look. I can still see, yes, there is the seed, but it's so faint now. There is a part of me that still, of course, would like to be, skinny, 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 skinny. But it's not even for myself, just because then others can see me in a certain way. But I observe that part, and it's sort of like, oh, shame, that little part is still there. But it's just getting, even as I said, I realized it's almost like it's actually not really there anymore. It was there up until recently, and now I really have let go of what is my body supposed to look like. I don't know, but what is it supposed to feel like? Ooh, that I know. And so whenever I even fall into the momentary illusion or desire of, oh, I would like to be that certain way, and or that size or whatever, it's like, what are you talking about? How do you feel? I feel alive. I feel amazing. I feel, really for the most part, craving free, desireless, fully in purpose, fully in joy, and at the same time also in full freedom of knowing that really, if push comes to shove, and I really feel like I need to have, whatever it is, a pizza, a croissant, or, whatever the momentary desire is, I always know I can have it, actually, because the reality is, as much as many people will say, oh, it's a crime to have certain foods, what I have experienced in my own body is that when we eat 80% truly mucus-free, 80% mucus-free, and high raw, and fruit and vegetables, and we do, the cleansing, because that is the path that we're on until we feel like, okay, our work is done, and we stabilize in, one way or the other. And that will differ for all of us, and it will also change and evolve. But when we get there, the truth of the matter is that if every now and again you do go and indulge in, whatever it is you desire, I have not noticed any ill effects. I've still healed. I've still maintained all my positive gains. And at the same time, by giving myself the liberty of every now and again, very deliberately and consciously go, okay, you really want this, you've been mulling it over for weeks now, or you've had that certain desire, just go have it, get it out of the way. And when I then have it, a lot of times what I discover is, the fantasy was far better than the reality. But then I still don't judge myself. Then it's like, okay, you made that decision. No different to when we go and buy. We've all had that experience. We fantasize about that one dress that we tried on a month ago, and it's still in our mind. And so then it's like, okay, go buy that darn dress. And then it sits in our cupboard, and we go, I guess I'm not really going to wear it, other than maybe once every 5 years, right? We all have that. And does that make us bad people? Does that, break the bank? Does it do any damage? No, it doesn't. It's a learning. And eventually, the more we do these learnings, the more that we forgive ourselves for those learnings, they fall away. And it becomes easier and easier to say, oh, I guess I don't really need to go there again. And every now and again we do, and that's also totally, totally fine. So that's kind of like how I've worked it out for myself. And you may have a different way of working it out for yourself. But basically what I'm saying is, no matter what you do, every now and again, it is actually a good thing to go and give in to a certain craving. And initially that may be more often, And eventually, as you go through your learnings, as you have the certain foods that you think are going to give you fulfillment, because that's the thing. We don't crave things because we're bad or stupid people. We crave them because we truly believe, or our body believes, or our pathogens believe that that is what we need. And so what is the best way to learn and to also get out of that habit of being intention about it? That's why more and more what I've done on this learning path is that whenever something popped into my mind, or when I felt like a strong craving, I would almost immediately go and fulfill it, and I would almost say, okay, Alex, we're going to go and fulfill that craving, because it's relentlessly in your mind. It's relentlessly calling you. And that impairs your energy system to be open to other things, right? It impairs you to be open to more love. It impairs you to be open to more creativity. So there's something there. It's calling you. Go. Even if it's a mistake, go. And that's how I learned, by taking myself there. And then obviously the deal was also, if you go and have it, do not judge yourself for it and fully enjoy it, because you're not going to go and eat whatever you want to eat. And it doesn't even matter if it's something as bad as a croissant, or, something half bad as, I don't know, a slice of raw cake with cashew nut cheese or whatever. Whatever it is, go have it. And have it with full consciousness, with full enjoyment, because otherwise it's not worth it. And then afterwards observe, okay, what was that about? So that's where then, you start cultivating the awareness to fully feel into, what did it serve? Did it serve you? And sometimes it did serve me. Oftentimes, more often than not, it didn't. But there were times when it was like, oh, wow, I'm sitting in this amazing coffee shop, and I'm enjoying all the people watching, and just where everything came together in the right way. And I ate whatever I ate, and it actually did the trick. It fulfilled me. It, for some reason, made my energy shift into, I can have it all. And the thing is, you can truly have it all. I don't believe that you have to be 100% strict on this path. What you have to realize is that, so it's a little bit like going to Disney World, or going to, ride a ferry wheel or a roller coaster, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But if you start doing it every day, or if you start needing to do it every weekend in order for you to have fun, then there's something wrong with it, because it's the meaning that you attribute to it. But if every now and again you go on a roller coaster, which, yes, it's not good for your neck and blah, blah, blah. But if you go every now and again, no problem. If every now and again you go for a crazy shopping spree, no problem. It's when that shopping spree becomes what you need in order to feel fulfilled. It's when, so it's like that with anything, right? Anything that we do, it's always, what is the intention and the emotion behind it? And it is, for me, it's been an integration of realizing that there is no such thing as good or bad per se in existence. Everything is dual. Everything has its positivity, its negativity. Everything has a price, especially an energetic price. And so when we realize and we own that, and we also realize, well, we're here for living, And of course, we want to take care of our bodies, and we want to work towards longevity and health and, be the best that we can. But sometimes being the best can also start becoming detrimental when we become too dogmatic, or when we become too restrictive. And that's why also, when I start feeling like, I'm becoming way too dogmatic and too judgmental, that's when I go, okay, go have some junk, Alex. So that you can come off your high horse and, look at all these people that are eating all this junk. Go have some junk, because you're human too. And you actually also like it, you know. I mean, that's where I go, yes, as much as now my palate has changed, and I ultimately always do come back to knowing that nothing actually fulfills me truly, deeply, as much as fruit. Not even salad anymore. But that took time to come to that true fulfillment, because the palate had to change, the alkalinity in the body had to change, the chemistry in the body had to change. And so initially I had to go back and forth, back and forth. And at the same time, even now, you know, if I think, I mean, sort of like my favorite thing, you know, there's only really a handful of things now that are left that I every now and again go and have. And one of them is a particular almond croissant at this particular bakery. And when I now have it, do I not like it? Of course I like it. I still enjoy it for what it is. And at the very same time, I can also feel into the part of me that knows, this is not really serving you. And actually on a deep, 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 deep level, what I truly want actually then after the almond croissant is like, oh, I just want my big plate of fruit, because that is what fulfills me. But we have to get there honestly and truly through learning, you know, and that's where it can't come through willpower. So when we say, you know, how to stay in loving and out of discipline, and that's only really possible by this process of learning and forgiving ourselves that we have to go through this learning process, and to be watchful. So how do we stay in loving and out of discipline? Through awareness. So that the minute that we become aware of our judgment, of our self-loathing, of feeling like we are getting into a bad mood because maybe we can't be as disciplined as we want to be, that's when we need to just drop it. Just drop it. And you know, sometimes that's where it really does it, and we all will find our way. So I'm not saying that my way will work for everybody. I mean, I am deeply rebellious inside. I'm deeply self-critical, or have been, you know, and it's amazing to finally see how, by God, it's changed. I am no longer self-critical. I no longer have a preference of when I am skinny, 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 and when I'm, you know, a little bit fuller. Like, there's no more preference. But it took time, and it took constant awareness, and it takes feeling into the pain of what it does to us when we are not self-loving, what it does to us when we, you know, hold on to discipline, when we try to hi Lisa, when we try to, you know, flagellate ourselves into a certain way of being and eating and, you know, yeah, being more and more perfect. And a great thing to remember on this path is that it takes time. And so be patient. And at the end of the day, like, really, really, what are 3 or 4 years of your life where you have to be aware, where you have to work at it, where you have to feel into the pain of not being self-loving and all of that? Because eventually, inevitably, as you walk this path, you do come to such a deep level of self-love, self-honoring, and where at the same time, you can still have it all. You can get to a point where you are totally and utterly happy to eating this way 80-90% of the way of the time. And then every now and again, because it's somebody's birthday, because you're on holiday and you just have this feeling of celebration, and where, you know, sometimes we do want to go back to some of our old ways, you know, for melancholy's sake or whatever it is. You know, it's like we're still human, and in this evolutionary process, we need to dance between the old and the new, between that which we were and that which we are becoming. And it is totally okay. You know, and that's where sometimes when I look at these people that are so judgmental and so critical of, you know, that unless you're 100% raw and unless you're 100% this and 100% that, sort of like the alarm bells go off, because I know for myself, you know, that it's not realistic, and that you can keep on going, you can be harsh, you can be disciplined, but eventually, I don't care how long it takes. For some it takes 6 months, for some it takes a year, for some it takes 3 years. But at some point, the breaking point comes. And that's when, you know, all hell breaks loose and people start binging, and the raw food people all of a sudden go back to cooked food and all of that. And that's because if you haven't integrated yourself in the deepest self-love, then this is not going to be viable. So I always say, rather go slow, but know that inevitably you will get to a point where this will all be integrated and you will just be in utter flow. And there will be no more question. There will be no more, oh, I need to be careful of what I eat. I need to take account. No, you'll just be in flow. And at some point, you know, there'll be a beautiful carrot cake served by, you know, a beloved friend, and you will eat it with such deep appreciation and love, and not with, oh, I'm going to have this carrot cake because, you know, I haven't had it in so long and so I'll have it. No, you'll eat it with utter relaxedness, knowing that in this moment you're taking something in that, yes, it's not part of your everyday food, but it has its place, because everything in this world is divine. You know, so also when I hear people say, oh, you know, all this other food and it's from the devil, no, it's not. Because we as a collective, we are part of it. We created all of that, and we also created it for a reason. And, you know, sometimes eating, like, let's say, you know, I'm Italian, and I mean, the best food is in Italy and Asia and Japan, and, you know, okay, I love food. So, I mean, there's amazing food all over the world. And will I not, you know, next time that we travel to Italy, will I not go and have some, you know, incredible dish that really calls me? I will. But then I also know that, well, that's for entertainment purposes. And then I know that because otherwise 80-90% of the time I look after my body and I eat well and I detox, I know that my body can handle a little bit of poison. You know, it truly can. And so once you get that picture, then you start realizing you can have your cake and you can eat it too. When you decide, when it truly is a fit, when it doesn't come out of neediness and out of wanting to fix something or to fill something, but when you simply have it because you can. Right? And that energy changes everything. Does that make sense? Whoever is here. So detox versus weight loss. How can a relationship survive when our partner is not on the same page as us? Yes. So that's also a big one, right? Because, and I mean, I initially, even though my husband joined from the beginning, he was not nearly as strict as I was, and he still isn't, which is actually a good thing. You know, as much as sometimes I criticize him for it, and sometimes I get on his case, you know, I explode, and I go, how can you now? You know, what did I recently say to him? So we were doing this whole fruit thing, right? And I mean, on the whole fruit thing, you can still have tomatoes and cucumber, and, you know, because that's part of the fruit, but no hummus, for example. So there was still a bowl of carrot hummus in the fridge. And, you know, immediately I could smell from his breath that he had something that wasn't fruit. So I said, so what have you been eating? He's like, well, just some carrot hummus with cucumbers. How many times do I need to tell you that the carrot hummus is not part of fruit? I can't believe you're so undisciplined. And he's like, well, thank you for telling me once again. and we had this whole, but I had to realize that is my own judgment coming out, mirroring, that's my own shit. Because he's at peace. He's like, okay, I made a little mistake, been eating fruit for 10 days. Now I had a little bit of carrot hummus, big crime, right? And so he's chilled about it. He's like, okay, thank you for telling me. I won't do that again. I forgot, didn't know, move on. Whereas I was all worked up. And every single time that happens, it's simply a reflection of the way that I treat myself. And so then I have to take a deep breath and say, I'm so sorry. I realize I'm projecting onto you, and that I have to soften towards myself even more, soften. And so our partners, when they are not following the path at all, or when they're not following it to the depths with which we desire to go, then there's always a mirroring. And if they don't follow our path, we have to be compassionate enough to realize that that is their choice. And then we have to see, can we still love them, and be honest in that. And to then maybe talk things out and to say, I really struggle to honor you right now because this is bringing up this and this for me. So to have an honest conversation, but to also always see that whatever we project onto them is actually our stuff. Because we don't know what their soul contract is. We don't know what they came here to learn, what they came here to embody. And we can only know about ourselves. And so it needs to be in line. We need to simply do what is right for us. And they need to do what's right for them. And ultimately, we can only inspire others. So by us becoming proof that this works, that this improves your life, your health, your way of being on all levels, that is when the others will start looking and going like, there's something there in it for me too, or I'm interested. Just like we are getting so many people that over the years, seeing our transformation, and what all is happening and transforming in our lives on all levels, they're going like, oh, wow, there's something there. It seems extreme, it seems radical, but we want some of that. We want some of your energy. We want some of the way that you're living. And so that then becomes an entry point. Lisa says, my partner eats McDonald's and drinks Coke. Wow. That's a radical, opposite way of eating. But yes, I get it. As radical as that is, and as much as, I look at that and I go, wow. But if it's serving him, which obviously it's not, but if he believes it's serving him, then there's nothing we can do, and Ellen says mine too. So yeah, we can only be the best examples for ourselves. We can only become proof. We can never drag anybody down this path. And, everybody needs to come to their own conclusions and realizations, which is also the only way that this can really work. Because eventually, I also had to say to my husband, I'm happy that you're doing this to assist me and follow me and support me. But I said to him, ultimately, you have to do this for yourself. And also I had to then honor that or acknowledge that part of me wanted him to join me because it was easier to then, if he was having a coffee, I would be tempted to have a sip of it. Or if he was having, some food that was not on my list, it was really hard to say no to tasting it and then maybe having the whole thing. But that's my problem. So that's where I then had to kind of sit with this thing, well, is that his problem or your problem? That's your problem. And you need to take ownership of that. And so that is where also the growth happens. And then at the same time, to honor, well, if he's sitting next to you eating something and you just have to have it, then don't get angry at him. Either have some, suffer the consequences, or acknowledge the consequences, and therefore from that learning, next time you're not going to have it, or have it, enjoy it, see it as a momentary lapse, and move on. You know, so it's kind of like, don't make problems where they really aren't problems. It's just always a learning curve. I find it hard when he makes hot toast with butter. Oh, yes. I mean, that just, you know, it smells amazing. Let's face it, a taste from a pure taste bud, you know, of course it tastes great. But then, you know, do we want to suffer the consequences of what that does to our body, knowing what it does? And yet, every now and again, you know, if that is what you currently like, because eventually it does get easier and easier and easier to say no to those things. I mean, for me also, like, bread was like my biggest thing, you know, growing up in Italy, German parents, both parties making amazing bread. I mean, bread was my thing. But you can, for example, initially, as you start transitioning, you could substitute with an old spelt bread, or you could substitute, like here we get amazing fermented buckwheat bread. And then instead of butter, use a little bit of avocado, you know, or tahini or something. And again, if in the majority of your diet, if your diet is predominantly greens and fruit, if every now and again you have that, it's okay. You can still have that until the cravings eventually subside. And they will. Always make sure that if you do have that, have it with, like, you know, proceed it with a big green salad with sprouts or something like that. How to stay loving and out of self-discipline. We spoke about that. How to work with the part of me that is sad and broken-hearted and just wants to eat. So yes, that part also, it's acknowledge. It's again, it's all, this whole journey is all about acknowledgement and awareness. And it's integrating all these parts of ourselves that want to be seen, want to be heard, want to be fed, want to be celebrated. And that is where we need to make peace with the fact that we are all utterly human. And that's why, you know, as much as it can look from the outside that these people that have this iron discipline does not lead to integration, ever. So it may look from the outside as if you've got it together, but I mean, I see these people all the time. You know, and these people, those are the people that I do a lot of deep one-on-one work with, a lot of sacred medicine work with. And sure, you know, it's hard to be that hard, because then no good can come in. You know, these are the women that don't let any pleasure into their lives. And so it may look good on the outside, but on the inside, it does not feel good. You know, it doesn't lead to happiness. It doesn't lead to fulfillment, never mind creativity, never mind stepping into your full truth. And I think we need more examples if we want to change the world, which we all do. We all want to see the world thriving, and we all want people, you know, stepping and living into their truth and all of that. I mean, I think that is where the whole world, we are moving towards that. And if we want to become beacons of light, if we want to empower others, we have to soften. And so that for me is really, you know, that is what keeps me going every single time. And I still have, you know, daily, I have moments where there is that struggle of like, oh, I so want to keep hard. I so want to push. And every single time the movement is towards softening and accepting, you know. And for me, sometimes I also feel like, oh, I need to be so perfect because I am, you know, the voice or one of the voices of this movement. And then I remind myself every single time when I get, spinning into that direction, it's like, that's not the way that you're going to do it. The way of doing it is by simply softening, by accepting your humanity. And so when we feel the part that is sad and brokenhearted, that just wants to go like, okay, fuck it. Now I need XYZ. Then it's about not pushing that part away, but it's about holding that part and saying, okay, how can I hear you. I hear you right now. All you want to do is this momentary satisfaction because it is so painful. It is so hard to be in this space. And as we feel into that and we hold that part and we acknowledge that part and we say, you know what? If you really want to have XYZ food, you can have it. But that is when you need to first feel into the emotions, and then you go and you feel into, do you still need to have the food that you're craving? And then sometimes it is totally okay to go and have with full awareness what you desire, and then also fully enjoy it. And if you don't, then stop. And that is a process, and you will get it wrong, inevitably. And you will find yourself judging yourself for it, and you will find yourself moping around for a whole day thinking, oh, fuck, why did I do this, da-da-da, all the voices. And then compassion, deepest compassion for that part that is so deeply human. And that's all we can do. And then the next time we know better and we'll do better. And that is the learning. So I'm going to leave you with that. And, please keep these questions coming because these are such important conversations. This is where we learn, and this is where we learn to soften and we learn to grow in self-love. And it's a process and it takes time. And sometimes we reach moments where we think, oh, I will never get it. And you will, I promise. Because if I did it, I promise anybody can do it. So sending you so much love, and thank you for all your input and questions and presence. See you soon. Bye.